All right, let's talk about building muscle. If you've ever tried to do it, you know that going online for advice is, well, it's a nightmare. One person says, eat everything in sight. The next says, no, you have to eat perfectly clean. Lift heavy. No, lift light for more reps. It is absolutely exhausting. So, what is the deal? Why is this so ridiculously confusing? It's because the fitness world is just flooded with myths, half truths, and frankly, advice that only works for a tiny, tiny fraction of people. It's so easy to get lost in all that noise and feel like you're just spinning your wheels. So, how do we fix this? Today, we're going to slice right through all that nonsense. We are going to bust the three biggest myths that hold people back from making real progress. And we're going to pull from everywhere to do it, from hilarious Reddit threads and classic bodybuilding sites, all the way to peer-reviewed scientific studies to build a simple, straightforward plan that actually works. Okay, first up, myth number one. I call this one the effort barrier. This is the big one. The belief that eating right to build muscle is just too difficult, it takes too much time, or it's way too expensive for a normal person with a job and a life. And, this whole feeling was perfectly captured in this amazing guide by a Reddit user that just blew up online. Their answer to this problem? Something they so lovingly called meat slop. It has nothing to do with being a chef. It's all about brutal, beautiful efficiency. What's great is that this guide just goes straight for the jugular. It calls out all those common excuses that, let's be honest, we have all probably used at some point. I don't have time. I can't cook. I don't have a fancy kitchen. It costs too much to eat healthy. Sound familiar? Yeah, me too. So what is this meat slop stuff? Honestly, it's about as simple as it gets. Just think of a big pot of chili or a stew. You've got some ground meat, a bunch of cabbage, some tomatoes, and spices. The point is not to win a Michelin star. The point is to have a reliable, high-protein meal sitting in your fridge, ready to go for the entire week. And get this, the time it takes? Practically nothing. The person who created it actually timed themselves. The active cooking time to make a whole week's worth of lunches was less than 25 minutes. After that, you just let it simmer on the stove and stir it every once in a while. That's literally it. And this right here, this just nails the core idea. Perfection is the absolute enemy of progress. The goal isn't some Instagram-worthy meal. The goal is a meal that fuels your body, hits your nutrition targets, and is so easy to make that you'll actually do it week after week. Trust me, consistency beats perfection every single time. Okay, so if simple and consistent is the key for food prep, what about how much food we should be eating? Well, that brings us right to our second myth, the gluttony myth. You know, the one, that old school bodybuilding mantra that says to get big, you've just got to eat big. Now, this myth basically splits people into two camps. In one corner, you have the clean bulk. This is a smart, small, controlled calorie surplus from good, whole foods. And in the other corner, you have the dirty bulk, where you just eat anything and everything that isn't nailed down to gain weight as fast as humanly possible. But does that actually work? T-Nation has this awesome analogy for it. Think about your body like it's a construction site. Protein, that's your bricks. Calories, that's the money you pay the workers. Now, your genetics and hormones, they decide how many workers you have on your site. If you start sending way, way more bricks and money than your crew can possibly handle, you don't build the house any faster. You just end up with a giant, messy pile of unused materials. And in your body, that pile is just body fat. And here's the number that really shocks people. Your body has a very real, very hard speed limit for building new muscle. Even if you do everything perfectly, a natural lifter can only build about a quarter to maybe a half a pound of actual dry muscle tissue per week. That's it. Anything more than that you see on the scale is just water, stored carbs, and yeah, you guessed it, fat. So that leads to a pretty big question, right? We all know that person who dirty bulked and gained 15 pounds in 3 months and swears it's all solid muscle. If the biological limit is so low, what is actually going on there? Well, the answer is something called the illusion of big, and it's a real phenomenon. It's what happens when you add a layer of body fat over the muscle you already have. It can actually make you look bigger and more imposing, especially when you have a shirt on. Take a look at this. This is the perfect example. The man in this photo is actually 20 pounds heavier in the picture on the left. 20 pounds. But on the right, after he's leaned down, he looks significantly more muscular and just more impressive. It's a classic case where having more definition creates the illusion of having more size. And it's not just about how you look. The science is really clear on this. Your body fat level actually changes what your body does with the food you eat. When you stay leaner, your body is better at partitioning those nutrients, meaning more calories go towards building muscle. But as you get fatter, your body gets really, really good at just one thing, taking those extra calories and storing them as even more fat. So, we've covered the kitchen, but what about the gym? This brings us to myth number 3, the training secret. A lot of people think that just showing up and slinging some weights around is enough, but the research shows that how you lift can make a world of difference. The real secret weapon here is a concept called the eccentric contraction. Now, that sounds fancy, but all it means is the negative part of a lift. Think about lowering a dumbbell during a bicep curl, or the part where you're going down into a squat. It's anytime the muscle is getting longer, but it's still under tension. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, research out of the University of Birmingham shows that the combination of stretching a muscle while it is simultaneously overloaded with weight is the single most powerful stimulus we know of for triggering muscle growth. And the eccentric phase of a lift does that perfectly. And the results, they really do speak for themselves. In one study, they compared 2 groups. One group only focused on lowering the weight, and the other group only focused on lifting it. The eccentric group, the ones lowering the weight, got significantly stronger. They saw a 29% jump in their peak strength, while the other group only saw a 19% increase. That's a huge difference. But here's where it gets really, really cool. The magic isn't just happening in your muscle fibers. Focusing on eccentrics actually rewires your brain and your nervous system. You're not just building bigger muscles, you're literally training your brain to use those muscles more effectively. The researchers actually call this an enhanced neural drive. It basically means your brain gets much better at sending strong, coordinated signals to your muscles. That allows you to recruit more muscle fibers and, as a result, produce way more force. This is a massive piece of the strength puzzle that most people completely ignore. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. We've busted 3 massive myths. We know that our nutrition doesn't have to be perfect, just consistent. We know that eating way too much just makes us fat. And we know that how we lift is incredibly important. So, what's the actual game plan? Let's build a simple blueprint. Here it is. It's just 3 steps. First, find your own version of meat slop. Whatever simple, repeatable meal helps you hit your protein goals day in and day out. Second, build a clean, slow surplus. Aim to gain no more than 1.5 to 2 pounds a month. That's the sweet spot. And third, when you're in the gym, master the negative. On every single rep of every single set, focus on lowering that weight slowly and with control. So when you really look at it, building muscle doesn't have to be this big, complicated mess. By choosing consistency over perfection, a smart surplus over just eating everything, and mindful training instead of just throwing weight around, you can build a system that will finally get you the results you want. So the only question left to ask is the plan you're following right now actually building muscle, or is it just building frustration?